Hi, everyone. I'm glad that you could join us today. I hope we can go through this workshop together, reflecting on our own practices and relationships with our teams, leaders, and clients. Before we talk about this period of uncertainties, I would like to send my condolences to many families that lost their loved ones during this time. My name is Sandra Almeida. I am the newcomer wellness coach for Options Community Services, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. I would like to start off by doing a land acknowledgement. Options Community Services acknowledges that we are on the unceded territories of the Coast Salish peoples, including Tsleil-Waututh, Kwetlan, Ketsi, Musqueam, Simiamu, Tuased, Kite, Quiquetlan, and the Stolo nations. I'm here today with my colleagues, Boban and Mariana. Mariana and Boban, could you please introduce yourselves?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. It's good to be here. My name is Mariana Martinez Vieira. I use pronouns she, Esha. I am based in Vancouver. I'm trained as a psychotherapist specialized in trauma and in refugee trauma in particular. I am the clinical supervisor at the Vancouver Association for Survivors of Torture, to many of you known as VAST. And I am BC Provincial Refugee Mental Health Coordinator. It's a pleasure to be here. I want to acknowledge where I am. I want to take a moment to pay my gratitude and respect to the Coast Salish nations, the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish, on whose unceded territories I'm standing as I gather with you all today. Thank you very much.
Hi,
It's my
Boban.
turn.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Boban Stojanovic. I am LGBTQ plus program manager at the Center for Newcomers. LGBTQ plus program is part of our vulnerable populations program. And if you want to learn more, you can go to our website and see and learn about our amazing work that we're doing, especially in these very challenging times. And as we presenting at the national conference, we respectfully recognize we live on the traditional territories of many indigenous nations and First Peoples throughout Canada. And as service providers all over Canada, we strive for respectful partnership with all the country people as we search for justice, reconciliation, and healing and honor this beautiful land together. So in the name of that, I will just ask you to spend a few seconds reading this wonderful Center for Newcomers land acknowledgement. Thank you.
Center for Newcomers acknowledges that we are on the ancestral lands of the Blackfoot Confederacy, which includes the Blackfeet of Montana, located in USA. These lands extend from the North Saskatchewan River in Canada down to the Yellowstone River in Montana, from the Rocky Mountains in the west, east into Saskatchewan. We are located on Treaty 7 territory of southern Alberta, which includes the Blackfoot Confederacy, Siksika, Kainai, Piikani, Tsuut'ina, Stoney Nakoda, Wesley, Chiniki, and Bears Paw. Métis Region 3 and all people who have chosen to make this place their home.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Sandra?
Mariana. Thanks, Mariana and Boban. I'm looking forward to your presentations. Here is the agenda for today. We will start with some reminders of how to use Slido. I will do my presentation first, pass it to on Mariana, and then Boban. We'll leave some time for questions and answers, and we are gonna have a closing activity. To ask questions, please use the hashtag P2P2020 and find the blue dot workshop. So let's get started. Again, my name is Sandra. I'm the wellness coach for the Moving Ahead program at Options Community Center Services. Options is a nonprofit organization that provides social services in Surrey, Delta, White Rock, and Langley, BC. Options believes in helping people help themselves. We believe in collaborating with individuals, business, community groups, and government to create effective and responsive resources for the community. I work in the Moving Ahead program, a specialized program for vulnerable newcomer population. The program provides case management, wraparound wellness coaching, and customized group sessions. These services are provided in a holistic approach to support youth, individuals, and families living with multiple barriers. These barriers could be a combination of family conflicts, financial struggles, mental and physical problems, poverty, trauma, and crisis situations during their settlement in Canada. Next slide, please. So, how can we create a culture of wellness in the midst of many uncertainties? Before the pandemic, clients living with multiple barriers were already struggling with financial distress, social isolation, low self esteem, and others. But back then, they had more opportunities to overcome those challenges because they could access in person services at any time. Community events and resources were also available. They had more regular in person English or French classes. They could also receive intensive emotional support and seek employment in many different ways. When the pandemic hit, clients felt even more lost than before, just like in this maze. They worried even more about what directions to take and the time associated with getting the help they needed. To make the situation even more difficult, they had many challenges learning and trusting the new digital world. To address this, the MAP program manager first worked on intensifying team trainings related to confidentiality, boundaries, working from home, and help staff understand how critical one-on-one support and follow-up was at the time. It was important for the team to have secured protocols and transparent communication to keep the home visits because online services were not enough for the clients we had. Of course, the team made sure all official protocols and best practices were followed, but also adapted to our new reality. In addition, the MAP team wanted to make sure we understood all of the protocols from the partners and resources such as healthcare providers, schools, access to benefits, so that we could prepare our clients to this new reality and supporting them, especially for urgent medical needs. The MAP program manager also identified a need for implementing a culture of wellness involving the three levels of the program: management, staff, and clients. Then I joined the team in May as a coach to develop and implement the wellness approach. Creating a culture of wellness starts from the management level to support shaping the shared leadership approach, where you consider the value of your staff leadership and the wellness factors in the process. Manager, coach, and staff work together to identify stressor during the service delivery and the impacts that and that impacts the team, workplace, and clients' living condition and well-being. After these steps, clients' cases were advised to the wellness coaching services. Depending on the intensity of the cases, 8 to 10 sessions were delivered per month to each client. As a coach, I brought the mental, physical, financial, and social factors into the dialogues, empowering self discovery and self reflection. This facilitated the communication and developed the relationships that came from a place of transparency, safety, boundaries, and compassion. I also worked with clients and staff to address clients' emerging needs in crisis situation. By preparing the staff and helping clients to navigate the new path with self-awareness, we create a culture of wellness and also reduce staff burnouts. As we create the culture of wellness, clients become aware of the coaching services available in our program and voluntarily requested to attend individual, families, and small groups wellness sessions. In these sessions, clients had an opportunity to share their life experiences. Please, Pia, can you go back to the other slide? Yes, please. Yes. In these sessions, clients had an opportunity to share their life experiences, perspectives, and wellness factors that have impacted them during transitions. Like they are like these gaps in this image. You can see some gaps is how wellness factors can impact people's life during transitions. Clients communicate their feelings, emotions, and behaviors in a calm and safe environment. They also shared how those feelings affect their decision making during the settlement process. By supporting clients to map their wellness and settlement goals, they were able to unlock motivation, improve self compassion, discover their inner resources, and rebuild trust in themselves and the new system. Next, please. As we all know, newcomers face many pressures navigating the system. They are not familiar with protocols and deal with long waiting lists. To access essential services like counseling and affordable house, basic needs during the uncertain times. Clients often reflect these navigation struggles with behavior that create even more problems to their journey. Because of their stress level, they sometimes lose their positive connections and stop small actions that used to bring them joy and hope. They become quite pessimist and isolated. When we introduced wellness elements in a strategic and holistic manner, they learn how to access their inner resources and remember their values and positive memories. For some, this could be a spiritual connection, a positive talk with a loved one. These small changes in behavior sometimes create large impacts on their daily lives during the uncertain times. When the clients learn how to cope with their emotions a little bit more, the relationship with frontline workers also improves. And this change in the client's behavior can help reduce staff burnout during the pandemic. Next, please. It's important to note that facilitating the wellness culture into the service delivery is not a fast solution, but a series of small steps that supports managers, teams, and clients to remove constant walls and barriers that set them back in the process. It's about understanding our own stressors, daily microaggression oppressions, and it's a daily microaggressions, revisiting values and promoting quality relationships. These relationships include professional, personal, and communities. We need to create health and safe communities. Creating a culture of wellness, it's about empowering each other. Empowering each other. This is so important to face the pandemic. It allows judgmental thoughts to be replaced with curiosity, hope, inclusion, equality, diversity, and humanity. Creating a culture of wellness is about empowering each other and learn how to seek help when needed. When people are encouraged to take control of their lives again, they advocate not only for themselves, but for others. So let's give space and access to all. Thanks, everyone. I will pass it over to my colleague, Mariana.
Thank you,
Please,
Sandra.
Mariana.
Thank you very much for getting us started with this conversation, with this reflection. And I like how you did it and set a foundation by naming it, naming that we're all involved and that this very intentional commitment to a culture of wellness happens from the top down and from the bottom up, right? That's where we meet, and all players are involved. So, what do I bring to the plate here? So, as someone that is specialized in the mental health piece, um, I would like to share with you my experience, our experience at VAST, and our actions taken during this pandemic, and the lessons, the challenges that we face. I bet that many of you will relate to those, and the lessons that we've learned. Um, Creating a culture of wellness inward within ourselves, with team members, in our agencies, in our sector, in our work with folks, with clients, with program participants, probably better said. So let's roll. A little bit of context. Pia, the next one. Yeah. So a little bit of context. I work at VAST. I mentioned that. I want to mention that VAST is a nonprofit organization that got established back in the 80s, in 1986, at a time when many of us were not yet here on these lands. I wasn't. And VAST was created as a grassroots organization by human rights activists. Many of them involve workers in the mental health and primary health field who decided that we had to find a response to the great, ever increasing influx of refugees and forced migrants in the region to support their human rights and the well being. So that's what we do. And the next one here, probably at this point, with my words, you can gather that I work, as I would say, many of the work that many of you do, happens in that intersection in between trauma, mental health, well-being, trauma, well-being, forced migration, and the resettlement challenges that that brings, and social justice or lack thereof. So social justice, injustice, and our commitment to justice doing. So that's where our work happens. I don't want to speak on anyone's behalf, but I dare say that many of, if not all of you, would relate to that. And it's important to name it as we start. So trauma, well-being, and trauma-informed practice. That's what I'm going to talk about. to capture how we at VASC have been navigating this pandemic, grappling with it, and invested in creating and embodying a culture of wellness. The next one, Pia. So a little bit more about VAS and what we've been doing, because there were many things that we were doing that we couldn't do, like walks in nature. I know that's very busy. Walks in nature, community kitchen, many things we had to stop doing, but we decided that of course we were going to continue. So we've continued to offer trauma counseling online, trauma-informed support groups, psychosocial support groups for claimants. That's one that many of you know. For other groups, trauma-focused therapy groups for refugee children, for Latin American families, for adults, various groups that we ran and that we moved to the online world where our lives happen these days. We've done trauma-informed yoga. We sometimes don't call it yoga when we talk to clients, but that's what it is. And during the pandemic, we launched a new program funded by the UN, which is the Survivors Advocacy Training Program, mostly how to mentor and support survivors in becoming an advocate. So that's very exciting. So the next one, Pia, please. The next slide. Trauma, I mentioned the word a lot so far, and I promise not to get too carried away, as not allow the psychotherapist and me to get carried away. This is what I'm trying to say. But it's important to name it. And it's important to say that trauma is not about it, it's not in the past. Trauma is not about the events. We are not talking about a past threat when we talk about trauma. We need to differentiate in between the trauma sources, right? The traumatic events, and trauma. Trauma has to do with all this trauma presentations, all these survival resources that are put in place in order to survive. As simple as that. Adaptations. They that later on in life may not feel adaptative. And probably your eyes are going over the slide, so I'm not going to mention or read all these possible trauma presentations, but I really want to name it and to bring the non-pathologizing stance to honor folks' experiences and honor the resiliency of any human being that rebounds in the aftermath of trauma. And to make it very clear that it's not something in the past. It is something that stands in the way of our work, concentration, carrying out tasks, being here, this sense that the body is here but the mind is not. And probably that rings a bell, right? We encounter that in our work. Many of us may have experienced this. So it is a fact of life, and we need to become aware of trauma. We need to become sensitive, responsive, and then embody those principles of trauma-informed practice to be effective. So there is trauma. And Pia, let's move to the next one. And I want to read two quotes to see how they resonate. Traumatic events overwhelm the ordinary systems of care that give people a sense of control, connection, and meaning. And that's Judy Herman in Trauma Recovery. And trauma is a loss of connection to ourselves, to our bodies, to our families, and to the world around us. So, kind of familiar, right? Probably it rings the bell these days. So we are not talking about something that is in the past, and even more important these days, in cases of the lives of those that have been impacted by trauma, there is that vulnerability, and it's vulnerability and resiliency together, but there's also a very concrete present risk of threat that we're dealing with these days. An overwhelm of all the ordinary systems of care, sense of control, connection, and meaning. How are we doing about that these days as we grapple with the pandemic. A loss of connection probably really rings a bell, right? So we need to really acknowledge that because, as Sandra was saying, we are navigating something. And when it comes to the mental health perspective, it's not about the previous vulnerability. There is this double whammy, right? There's a very concrete kind of Godzilla virus that is lurking there. So let us park it there for a moment and let us talk about well-being. And now, Pia, you can move to the next slide. There is trauma and there's well-being and there's a continuum, right? And when we think about well-being, probably you're already having some pop-ups, right? Some thoughts, some words. We are really thinking about a sense of a cohesive sense of self, accessing our internal experience, the sense of being here and being me, in connection inward and in connection to another, this ability to connect, to engage socially, to be relational, and to be here in present moment. So these are all aspects of well-being, and maybe the words could be other words. It's being here as opposed to being in the memories, in the trauma. So let us move to the other one. So how has COVID-19 messed up with it all? Just a recap. I don't think that I'm presenting on this. We all have been experiencing this. Isolation, right? Physically distancing, which we are trying not to end up transforming into social distancing. But it feels like social distancing and emotional distancing so many times. Uncertainty and predictability, which, by the way, are key elements of trauma, right? A sense of control, loss of control, overwhelm. Triggers that happen because all of a sudden another is the agent of risk, contagion. Triggers because isolation may feel like a lot or too little. Some folks may be super comfortable not doing the world. Others may feel that they are confined, in hiding, in jail again. The loss of resources or the lack of structure, the loss of livelihoods, loss of income, loss of housing, the inadequate or non-existent resources, all the resources that were in place, as Sandra was describing, and now, boom, they're gone. And our efforts to reinstall all that in our lives, in our own lives, and in the life of the ones that we're trying to support. The exposure to images, to constant images of death and people suffering. Speaking of triggers, that's one that I wanted to mention. The overexposure to all that. And isolation, that, as I said before, can be like an empowerment action because some people may start to feel too comfortable being distanced. So with that come all the feelings and the constant worry and the feelings of fear, anxiety, stress, and sometimes come into a sense of impending doom. So this is what COVID-19, this and much more, this only means to capture what COVID-19 has been doing to us in our internal landscape, in our communities, in our teams, in the lives of the ones that we've been trying to and definitely supporting. So let us move to the other one, the next one. So how to respond to this? How have we been doing it? I would like to think how we've been doing it at Vast. Probably reaffirming our commitment to trauma-informed practice. And this is about the core elements of trauma-informed practice: building safety, because safety brings stabilization, strengthening trusting relationships to foster that sense of connection, even online. Yeah. And developing an ability to self regulate and to regulate relationally, meaning learning to navigate the impact that it has in our systems. Hmm? And I'm going to stop there because otherwise I could continue for a whole day. But I wanted to name the most salient elements of trauma informed practice as I move on to the next one. And I would like to share how we've been doing it, trusting that probably it will really resonate and you will find that we share a lot of common ground. So, because healing happens in community, and it really does, because the type of traumas that we are uh, most of the time talking about, that people have witnessed and that we witness, are mostly socially produced. Healing has to happen in community. So, fostering community, fostering connection by translating our work online with all the challenges involved, committing to privacy and confidentiality to establish safety. That has been such a challenge, right? To explore all these platforms, learn about them, make mistakes, have a couple of laughs, hopefully, and keep going. Expanding our creativity and working on expanding accessibility, because definitely this crisis brought up by the pandemic has brought the social systemic inequalities center stage. Accessibility, right? Who has a computer and who hasn't? Uh, Access to the internet. All the, the very big uh, issues that we had at the beginning and we still have. So openness and flexibility, that was something else that we held on to. And for sure, being in British Columbia, probably holding on to our public health officers, Bonnie Heron's words of being kind, being patient in order to be safe. So this has been the attitude toward this that we share in our team, with our clients, with the stakeholders, such as options, for example, and many others with whom we share work regionally. And yeah, we can move to the next one. So, what we've learned through all these challenges, we confirmed that so many procedural accommodations were needed, right? And the learning process continues. But we are learned to bust certain myths, such as people won't attend if it's online, people would not like it or won't feel safe, right? There is that, and there's the opposite. And there's also uh, more possibilities to access being online for some, and for some that is a barrier. So we had to really come to this position of not taking anything at face value, which is always a good idea, and COVID has given us that opportunity. We decided that it's not the time to give somebody the same or trying to replicate what we're doing. We need to be creative in the way that we have our teams, our team member meetings, in the way that we deliver our programming with people, in the way that we are with people, so we can offer something different, something creative, and not just something less than real. huh? And fostering connectivity, uh, really tapping on solidarity and mutual humanity, those pieces that Sandra brought up, so important, right? Really reflecting on the way of cultivating presence, right? Not just what we do, but how we are among ourselves as team members, what quality of team meetings we have. I think this is very important. And we learned that trauma healing is possible online. Trauma counseling and trauma informed groups and trauma focused groups is possible. We also learned through collaborating with our partners and sister organizations in the region that trauma informed settlement services are possible online. So many of our partners have launch new programs, adapted previous programs, and it is possible. It is easy? No, it isn't, but it is possible. And we know that e-services are here. They're part of our present. For sure, they will be part of our future, and there's lots to learn. But probably today, more than ever before, it is so important to reiterate our commitment to truly embracing and embodying a trauma-informed approach, which really goes from the top down and from the bottom up. It's not just about what we do when we are with trauma survivors. Being trauma-informed is way more than that. And we know it, but it happens to us humans that sometimes we know something that we forget that we know, right? So it's important. And if today could be an opportunity for that, mission accomplished. So the next one, we also learn that sometimes it's just about breathing out, right? And keep going. But taking a moment to simply breathing out, sighing out. I know oftentimes we are instructed to take a deep breath, but it's usually a better idea to start by easing and releasing with a breath out. We also learn, or we got reminded of the fact that having a big stretch was always a good idea, is always a good idea. Yeah, so we learn from animals and the animal wisdom in us. We need to tap on that to take care of ourselves, to keep going, and to stay present and connected. And the next one, Pierre, to shake it off. We all need to stay put, to stay present. And presence and cultivating presence is really what can keep us connected, even when we are physically distant but connected. So I don't claim that I'm bringing something new. If only this can serve as a reminder, and if it can poke our curiosity and make us all more intentional to keep collecting one another as workers and agencies and partners, so that we can become more sustainable even through this pandemic, and more connected and effective in assisting, collecting, supporting our program participants. So, not finished, but I will stop for now and pass it on to Boban. We'll be back with questions after. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mariana. And before I give a few comments and few inputs, I will suggest to watch one video. I made this interview with one of our clients. Her name is Febelin, and she went through inland refugee process here in Canada a few months ago. And I think it will be wonderful illustration on everything that you already talk, and on few comments I will give after this video. So can we watch this? Thank you.
A day I'll never forget in my life, because I was really like Boban, I was really like losing it. I was really like at the peak. Can you imagine that from your home country, you escape torture, you escape death, you escape imprisonment, you escape stigmatization and all those kind of things. You're thinking that where you're going, and on top of that, you don't have any family. And you come and you think that things might get better, but it's turning the other way around. I was losing it, Bob, and you guys could be you saw that day when I got into this building. I was shattered and battered. A day I will never forget in my life. Maybe probably by now it have been a forgotten story. I've just been a memory that they would say, oh, Bole, Febelin, stuff like that. When I came here, you guys gave me a new turn in my life. You guys gave me a life. You guys gave me hope. You guys gave me everything a refugee needs, everything a desperate person needs, everything an escapist need. So when I came and I explained everything to you guys, and you and Katie gave me some of microfinance of $750 to go look for accommodation, my life, you guys turned my life around. I had a different life. I was like, oh, I felt good. I felt like I cannot start over. You guys gave me hope. You guys gave me a future to fight for, a future to build on, a future to stand on. Your support, not only that, if the money that you guys gave me clothes. I never had clothes. I never had anything. I never had food. You gave me clothes. You gave me food, reference to food bank, referral, because I imagine my life. Imagine I didn't meet you guys. Behold, I would have committed suicide because it was already on my agenda.
So now you are like, your healing went very well.
So from that, you guys took me through again, like advising me, trying to make me feel comfortable, asking me what do you want, and all of that. Give me a focus and helped me, especially for my hearing, which was the most important thing that you did. Another important thing, everything you guys did in my life was important. I wouldn't have been what I am today is because of you guys, Boban. Newcomer Center LGBTQ is the best. Seriously, is the best, because I would say from now to tomorrow, I am what I am is because of you guys. When I had my hearing, you guys gave me the maximum support, physically, morally, financially, everything that you guys support documents. When I went there, they couldn't ask me anything anymore because everything was there clear, right? She just did what she has to do because I had to go through the interview, but everything was there. Can you imagine that?
What is your plan now? Now you're a protected person, you are on your way to become permanent residents. Like, what do you want to do? How do you see your life in Canada?
One step at a time, you know. You guys have seen me through the other stuff, like making me have my hearing successfully on the 13th of August. All thanks to you, Bob, and the Newcomer Center, because you guys make everything possible. You guys prepare my support documents. You gave a very lucrative support document for my hearing, to my lawyer. You work with my lawyer. You keep up with my lawyer to make sure I have the best lawyer. You try to do background check. You took my hearing like your own personal hearing. That I do appreciate. I will always appreciate everything that you do, Boban. I will appreciate all my life, because if you don't like somebody, or you don't have somebody at heart, if you're not committed in what you're doing, the fight you want to fight for the people, you cannot do those things. So when my hearing came and you try to cancel me, if you know you have to go through this, it's normal, you do this, you prepare me psychologically, and that really helped me so much during my hearing. And when I had my hearing, it was successful. So now, like you said, that you guys will need to see how to help me to apply for my PR, you know, making things possible for me is something that I will appreciate, because in those other places, you will not find them like this. You will never find like this. You understand what I mean? So I really, really appreciate. So now I'm working for my PR and to see how to have my kids to come meet me and to give them the kind of life that I wish every mother wish to give for their family, for their kids. So that's what I'm looking forward now. So apply for my PR and see my kids to come meet me here, then we live as a one happy family. Because no matter what it is, your kids are your kids, right? Because all of them, they still have the same mentality. They still have the same. I feel comfortable, but I tell you everything. But behold, to go like elsewhere and talk, no. Because when they know that that's who you are, no matter how they pretend that they have been out or been here for years, they understand those things, they will still look you different. So I always keep to myself. If I have anything, I always reach to you guys, because I know you guys understand. The only way to help somebody is to know how that person feel. And you guys know how I feel, because some of you guys already been in that spot that I'm going through, and you guys know exactly where it pinches. So I don't know. I don't want to be selfish. I just want if we could have something to do with refugee claimants, seriously, because if you guys didn't help me, maybe I would have been in the next flight going back to Africa to go face danger and imprisonment. Because if I didn't have all those things to go through, there was nobody there to help me. You told me, Febeline, Bola, you have to do this, you have to go like this, we have to put this. Now you're helping me now to see how I go with my PR. How many of those people out there would do that? Just know that as I'm here, there are 5 others. It's 1:5. 1:5 that they don't really know where to go. Out of 5 LGBTQ clients, 1 gets help from you guys. The rest of the 4, we need to bring them together. We need to take them out of that shadow, out of that painful torture memory that they have. I've learned a lot of stuff here in Canada. One thing is that our culture and the culture of Canadians are too different. There's something I always tell people, that Canada is a land of milk and honey. There are a lot of good people. It doesn't mean there are no bad people, but yeah, there are a lot of good people. Canadians are very good people, because when they see you and you tell them your problem, they want to take that problem like their own problem. That's one thing I've noticed about Canadians. No matter what, no matter your color, no matter where you come from, they want to create an impact in your life. They want to do something that I help this person. Helping somebody is like their goal, that I help this person. It gives them joy. That's one thing I've realized. And yeah, another thing is they don't judge people. Though it's difficult for us to accept that, because we come from Africa, I come from Africa, people, they keep judging us. We like judging people, we like criticizing. But yeah, what you do is none of their business. So and that's one thing I've learned. Always, if you have a way of help people in your own best little way you have. So that's another thing I've learned here in Canada. And another one again is that here in Canada, you can never be stranded. They try to make things available for everybody in the best little way they can help somebody, like giving you shelter, food, clothes, and all of those things. Like I had a couple of referrals to Wings to go have dresses and all things that I would never seen, I would never dream of, Like this I had from Wings, the referral you gave me. Yeah, remember the one I told you that you gave me. So most of my stuff is from there. There's one friend I met at the LT train station in Marlborough, we're talking, that said that even if you live from Africa, you come in Canada without anything, know that you'll live for the rest of your life, because you have food to eat, you have accommodation, you have they'll shelter you, they'll clothe you, they'll do you everything. So one thing I learned about Canadians, they are very good, they are very nice, and they are very welcoming. Oh Oh my, yeah. Like I'm really like thinking of like volunteering because I have lots. I have a lot to give back to the community. I have a lot. In short, I'm indebted. The only way I can pay back to the Canadian community, I have in my whole life, I have to pay back. Pay back not in the sense that I'm not obliged to pay, but I feel like I owe something for another person. I owe other people something because other people made me what I am. So I owe that urge to make another person feel like the way I did. Because if not of you guys, I wouldn't have been what I am today. So I owe a lot back to the community, like a gradual process, like helping other people and all of us fight. Like, yeah, in LGBTQ newcomer center, I have to help, especially the new refugees coming. We really need to do something to help them that they shouldn't be stranded. You understand? I really need to volunteer. I have that in my mind. No, I have to pay back to the community. I really need to help the community in their only two way. I have places that I help though. I volunteer like my church that I go, with this COVID thing, like the 6 feet apart. I saw some people are so paranoid with all those things. So since like July, no, was it July? Since August, when things were like accepting churches to open, my church that I go, so they asked volunteer. I've been volunteering, helping for screening. I screen people, we usher people, and all those stuff. So I have a lot. Anywhere I see my own best little way that I can help, I do that because it shows. Another thing that I see here in Canada is volunteering. There's a lot of volunteerism going on in Canada, and which is very, very nice. It's something that I really, really appreciate.
Okay. Before I start my short presentation, I want to thank our wonderful client, Febelin, for being brave and open to share her journey with us. I think also like thinking and talking about LGBTQ plus refugees in particular, it's interesting because so many intersections are there too. It's not only about LGBT experience, it's also about like race and religion and disability and sometimes extreme poverty and many other intersectionalities. And in the next few minutes, I will try to explain the difference between time before and during the Corona crisis, and what we are doing at the Center for Newcomers to overcome challenges as much as it's possible now. So can we go to the first slide called trauma? Thank you. So most LGBT clients we serve came to different kind of like refugee streams whenever like sponsorship or inland claimants, and all of them are facing deep emotional and psychological trauma. For LGBTQ plus refugees, it is very important to mention how beside extreme violence, imprisonment, physical and verbal abuse, they face a complete lack of social and institutional support in their home countries. So growing up and living in entirely homophobic or transphobic environment leave lasting consequences on mental health. I will say inland claimants are particularly vulnerable. And before the COVID crisis starts, we were able to knew what the process of claiming for refugee is and how it goes, and we have to do like step 1, 2, 3, 4, and by doing this we were able to bring optimism and to create some hope for the clients. And hope is crucial. It's key word in our work, because as service providers with no hope, there is no reason for client to cooperate. And moreover, without cooperation, there is no success. So, however, with COVID-19 crisis, things were changed, and the whole system of claiming for refugee was changed. The waiting period for hearing was changed. It just get like a little bit longer, and some protocols are changed too. So like many of us, we were confused about what to do and what to advise and how to advise our clients. If we add collective paranoia and lockdown and racist attacks in US, and instead of creating hope, so much anxiety was there among this like refugee claimant community. And I will say that trauma became just like deeper than ever. It's very hard to prove welcoming or acceptance or something like that by meeting people online or talking over the phone all the time. And all this reflect on the level of hope we will able to create. And as my wonderful colleagues already mentioned, triggers, uncertainty, isolation make tough situation even harder. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yes, trust. So the majority of our clients that we made came from countries where being LGBT person is criminalized. It means there is zero institutional protection. If they experience homophobic or transphobic violence back home, there is no one who to protect them. And all the more they will be punished by institutions. So working with LGBTQ plus refugees, the key word is trust. Another key word is trust. And significant portion of our work is about building trust in Canadian institutions. So for example, the longer time required to approve, I don't know, like work permit, extension or something like that bring much more anxiety. So some of our clients also falling through the cracks for financial support, for example, and a certain period for refugee hearing as well. So like very often being the only person the client can trust became really huge challenge for us as service providers. They need someone who will give them factual information, but at some specific point, we couldn't do that because we didn't know what to do. And during ongoing crises, we heard so many times, I don't know, I have to double check, sorry, but you're not eligible for this or that. And yes, all these answers came from this chaotic situation and uncertainty and new normality, but all of them make life, all these answers makes life of refugees even harder. So with no trust and no hope, or so many obstacles there, the vulnerability factor became even bigger. Can we go to the next slide? Yes, integration. So as we all know, COVID crisis rapidly decreased the opportunity for social connections and integration for newcomers. So LGBT refugees and refugee claimants, they already have a very narrow choice. So they very often they don't want to be connected with cultural communities or religious communities due to security issues. Newcomers are quite expected to connect with the cultural communities, but however, for LGBT newcomers, this is very difficult because many cultural communities do not accept homosexuality or trans identities. So if our clients are connected with the cultural communities, they don't want to disclose their sexual orientation. For those who don't speak English or who speak like very poor English, this is particularly challenging because they don't have where to go. And very often there is no person to call or to establish any kind of connection in the community. The integration in the mainstream LGBT community is also a challenge for LGBT newcomers. Some clients are open to became part of Canadian LGBT community, but some of them are not. And it's, I mean, to me, it sounds very logical because due to the lack of support back home, these people, they didn't develop a sense of belonging to the community, especially not the LGBT community. And that's the reason why we insist on having support group and organizing different public activities with in this like safe surrounding, like I don't know, having a coffee or dinner together or going to the bar together, but in a safe environment, in environment of other LGBTQ plus refugees or refugee claimants or newcomers, but with no public events or very limited capacity of closed events, the chance to meet other people, to establish some new friendship or other kinds of relationship are almost like zero. Can we go to another slide? Thank you. So, sad word, solitude. So beside many other newcomers' challenges, most LGBTQ plus refugees and refugee claimants move to Canada as single people. So with no family, no friends, no partners, loneliness is inevitable. And going through hard times like refugee hearing, they need a lot of understanding and support. They need at least some friends. Before the COVID starts, we were able to meet more frequently, and we organized, for example, open door once a week, thanks to our community partner, End of the Rainbow Foundation. So people were able to come whenever they want between 9 and 5 to talk, have a coffee or tea, to share whatever is there, and it was fine. But now, with not being able to meet one or two or few people, you know, in the whole country, cause many anxiety and depression. That's what we can see. Also with like reopening and following all preventive measures, we were brave enough to organize a few events. And what I can see, all of them were very well attended, which was not like so typical for the period before COVID. And it proved how vulnerable clients depend on social connections. And I will say more than ever, we can see this, how much it is important to have something like support groups or to give opportunity to vulnerable clients to meet other people. And it's not important how many of them are there, it's important to know how much this is important. And next slide, please. Sort of improvement based on our learning during this period. So what we learn is we are not all the same. Some people are definitely more vulnerable than others. And there is no hierarchy in pain for sure, but we have to, as service providers, we have to be aware of intersectionality and how it reflects on our clients' lives. Also, what we learn is we are not all in this together. Some of us are not in even. So for so many people, refugee claimants, temporary workers, international students, times are very challenging because so many of them fell into the crack of the system. Also, we have to be aware of some cultural issues. Many vulnerable immigrants, like LGBT clients or domestic violence victims, they're not so open to share and to talk about their personal experience over the phone, Zoom, Skype. So sometimes this is not the best solution. And at this point, it is crucially important to create safe physical space to meet vulnerable clients if there is a high need to meet them in person. And we also, I think this time just like confirms something what we already knew, but now we'll learn even more how much it is important to listen our clients. And in the last few months, the Center for Newcomers improve existing connections with many community organizations. And for example, we learn how much some small things like culturally appropriate food camper could be beneficial for vulnerable clients, and how much it can bring some kind of joy and happiness into their life. And I think the most precious lesson that we learn is how understanding and solidarity and giving love and creating hope are essential factors during these challenging times. So my story was kind of sort of like illustration of few things that my wonderful colleagues already mentioned in their presentations. And Sandra, what is next? I think it's Q&A session if there are any questions.
Thanks, Boban. Thanks, Mariana. I would like to invite now Pia for the questions and answers. Hello, Pia.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So far we have one question on Slido, and I believe that this question is for Mariana. I will just quickly read it for Mariana and for everybody else who are listening to this presentation. The question is, can anybody incorporate a culture or practices of wellness into their delivery, or do they need professional training or experience? What expertise is needed to change?
Thank you. Okay, I'll try to capture my response to the question. And I hope that I wasn't hidden before. You can see me now. I don't know if you could see me while I was presented. I didn't mean to hide myself. Maybe I didn't open my camera, just so you know. Do we need training? Yes, we all do. Ongoing training, quality training. And that's something that I always push for, and we push for at VAS. We offer lots of training. We are not the only ones, we know that, but I know that we are some of the ones that really offer quality training that is relevant to our sector, because it's not just getting training on trauma-informed practice, like, hybrid trauma-informed practice. It needs to be culturally safe, contextualize trauma-informed practice that's not pathologized experience of survivors, of very resilient folks. It's just getting an understanding of how to be with another and cultivating presence. So training is important, but not training in being a psychotherapist or being a specialist in trauma or refugee trauma. Is attunement, is tapping on our internal and external resources to stay put and to stay present, able to regulate our emotions and whatever the work evokes in us, and to truly be connected from the inside out. So training is part of that. It's those things that we learn, it's the knowledge that we hold, the information that we get. But then we need to have quality team meetings, quality of supervision, and cultivate a way of being together in a team. Because if we don't offer each one another that solidarity, we're not sustainable, right? The issues are social. The issues that have caused, that are in the roots of a trauma that we are trying to heal, or for which we're trying to foster healing. So the responses have to be collective. Training is super important, how not to acknowledge that. But our agencies have to pursue poignant, relevant training that really makes sense to us working on the ground and to those that are holding managerial roles, all the layers of the organizations of the sector need to be trained and embody those principles so that we are just not a sector, but a movement toward healing in community. And we don't need to be a psychotherapist to promote healing. Trauma informed work is something that we all need to do. Some of us, I mean, advice is very clear. Some of us do trauma focused work. We do the clinical part of the work, but we all have a role in cultivating healing, right? And so I don't know if I fully answered that, but I think training is only one part of that. We need to be very intentional. We need to spend time reflecting, being together. I cannot but emphasize once and again, what type of meetings did we used to have before COVID? Haven't we improved those meetings and that supervision time, those check-ins? If we haven't, we have to do it right off. And then cherish that and keep going with that after COVID. Uh, Collecting one another, really having time to check in so that our meetings are not just, a check-in with the to-do. How we are. Are we here even? Are we present? Our principles of practice need to be revamped to give people a quality experience. Otherwise, this COVID virtual space brings a constant reminder of somebody's absence in the presence of somebody in that screen. So we need to tone up the connectivity, the social engagement, our mutual humanity. And this is some of the stuff that comes up. I'm going to mute myself at this point.
Thanks, Mariana. Thank you so much for answering that question. Maybe I would like to invite Mariana for our closing activity because we only have 3 minutes left.
And if there are questions, follow-up questions to any of us, people can contact us, right? I bet that they have access to our contact info. So happy to share it. So maybe our last slide, or without a slide, I can still guide this. So let us take time to close. Even that is part of what we need, right? Taking the time to be together and taking the time to close, because we don't close just because we press leave, right? So let us recap our time together today. And I wanted to invite some question. So maybe recapping what brought you here today. And hopefully it's not that it was mandated to you. So what brought you here today? What came up for you? What resonated? What good reminder you got? What is your takeaway? Maybe something shifted, hopefully. And maybe that thing that moved internally, some thoughts, some emotions, connection, enhance, and connection to why I'm here, why I do this work, how we can be more together, truly together, right? Now that there were distance, there's a new opportunity to sample togetherness. So what follows? What transformative action can I, you, we embark on so we become more intentional, more present, and therefore more effective in our work among ourselves and with clients, in our teams. So the invitation to reflect is not only with this one, I know, the pensier, right? But it's not just thinking about it, felt sense into it, ponder with your whole being. What moved internally today? What do I take away? What actions can I take? What actions can I invite as a manager, as a worker, frontline worker? My part, our whole. So take some internal notes. Maybe you want to even take some notes, actual notes, put them by your computer, on your desk, your home desk, right? Keep them close to your heart, to your work environment, probably very tailored, a very edited work environment, tailored to this situation. we've been working from home, or probably at home trying to work and navigating a lot. So it's important to connect, to turn inward, and from there to come together. And this is really in the core of creating a culture of wellness from the inside out in community. That's where
Thank you
healing
so
happens.
much.
That's not all, but that's all for today.
Thank you so much, Mariana. It's a very good reflection. And I think our time is up. So I would like to thank everyone for participating. It was really great time spending with all of you. Thank you so much and have a good afternoon or evening and hope to see you around. Thank you. Bye.
So stay
Bye.
positive and test negative. I heard a friend say that the other day, and I thought it was very eloquent, right? Stay positive, test negative. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Pia, Mariana, and
Cheers from
Woburn.
Vancouver.
Yeah,
Bye,
thank
everyone.
you.
See you somewhere. Thank you for being here, all of you, all of us. Bye.
Thank you.